Good evening, citizens of wherever you come from. From you are not to be deceived. You are not to be overlooked. Do not change that darn channel on that computer or whatever you're watching us on. It is Sports Talk with Austin and Jackson Johnson of the Jacksonian back again. Like we said, we're here to stay. We're not going anywhere. We're going to be here a while, people. So sit back, get your popcorn, enjoy the ride, because now we're going to take you on a ride of the 2025 Big Ten schedule. We promised you we were going to go through all the schedules as they come out. Next up in line is the Big Ten schedule, and boy, oh boy, it's an interesting schedule. We're going to talk about it, talk about the games that we think could be impactful. We're going to talk about the games that could go under the radar, and we're going to talk about even the games. We'll even talk about the cupcakes if you'd like, even
Who's
though
got an easy
me and
path and a
Jackson.
hard path and so on and so forth?
Yes, yes, yes. But there will be no predictions made tonight.
No.
Up front, me and Jackson will make no predictions. But if you want our full predictions, come back in July. We'll give them to you then. But until then.
Exactly.
But with all that being said, how are you, Jackson? And how's life treating you?
Life's treating me pretty good. I've just been making sure, to tell everybody when using research for college football, never ever use Chat GPT, but that's another time for another day. It's been pretty fun, but I'm just staying away from the allergies because apparently Alabama decided it was allergy season today and yesterday.
hmm
How have you been doing today,
Yeah.
Austin?
Oh, pretty good. Pretty good. I've got some of the allergies too. It's changing weather. So don't feel bad, Jackson. We all are getting it, but that's not going to stop us because we are going to deliver this content to our people. They demand it and they deserve it. And plus, we're bored. What better way to spend a Tuesday night than talking about the Big Ten schedule? We're
There
the
you
only
go.
psychos you know that'll do that.
There you go. Nothing better with you, partner.
Now, better than you. Let's talk about it, Jackson. Week one, where are we starting?
Well, it's pretty sloppy, but there's Nebraska Cincinnati on Thursday night football. That is the third year of the Matt Rule era kicking off, and the Scott Satterfield
Mm-hmm.
era going nowhere, like I suspect for Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's an interesting game to kick off the first Thursday night of the year in the Big Ten. Typically that's been Minnesota's night, but I'm glad to see another team's getting a chance to showcase the spotlight, showcase their talents in the spotlight. And Cincinnati, Nebraska, I think will be a fun, entertaining Thursday night game. Dylan Rayola in year two, Scott Satterfield, you know, is this a make or break year for him? We'll talk about that when we talk about the Big 12 schedule later on, either next week or the week after. But this ought to be a fun Thursday night game. I'm looking forward to it.
I love it.
And then obviously Texas, Ohio State. I mean, we talked about that last week with the SEC schedule, but to give a debriefer, both teams are starting fresh with their rosters. Ohio State coming off a national title appearance. Texas with Arch Manning, what's he going to look like in this offense? Texas's defense, what are they looking like? So it's going to be an interesting game. It's probably going to be the headliner for week one. And then you've got, Michigan, New Mexico, Michigan. I mean, who's going to be starting quarterback in Michigan? That'll be the key there. Utah, UCLA, an old Pac 12 rivalry reunited. That could be a fun game. Kyle Whittingham, how many more years does he have left? UCLA, they kind of made a run late last year. How will they start off this campaign? Looking forward to it. I
Uh,
mean, got some interesting games.
Utah, UCLA. I'm curious about that one. But Northwestern Tulane looks like an underrated matchup. And I know this is one that's gonna make some people go, what? But Montana State, Oregon. Because I mean you got the FCS runner up for 2024. So that's gonna be huge to watch.
Yeah, we all remember that infamous Idaho game last year for Oregon and Jackson. And Oregon, they're dealing with a whole new quarterback situation as well. The Big Ten's going through a lot of quarterback changes this offseason. So this is going to be, for a lot of teams, seeing what they've got at quarterback.
Oh yeah. That's for
I mean,
sure.
Ohio Rutgers, don't sleep on that game. Ohio
Yeah.
Jackson, they're a decent team. Don't sleep on it.
Oh, I don't plan to. That would be a dumb move to sleep on Ohio. Let's see.
Western Michigan, Michigan State could be an underrated game to watch.
That
Year
could
two
be.
of Jonathan Smith.
Yeah, that's a possibility right there.
I mean, it's in East Lansing. I would think Michigan State would win, but I mean, Western Michigan gave Wisconsin all they could handle last year. So it's interesting. I mean, the headliner for week one is obviously Texas, Ohio State. And then after that, it's kind of a who's who of who will be the second headliner game.
Wow. It's a toss up between all of them, but perhaps the week two
Yeah,
slate can be better.
yeah. Week one's kind of the warm up. Everybody's getting warm. Week two.
There we go. And there it is, folks. Oh, there we go. We're going to have Illinois Duke, the Cy Hawk Trophy between Iowa, Iowa State, Oklahoma State, Oregon, Michigan, Oklahoma, Boston College, Michigan State. Although, to be honest, I'm honestly wondering about the Iowa State game. Can Iowa get revenge, or can Iowa State win at home and win for the second straight year?
That's going to be interesting, to be honest with you. Make sure. There we go. Make sure my mic was on. That's going to be interesting, to be honest with you, because Iowa, Jackson, they're going through another quarterback change. And how many more years of Kirk Ferentz are we going to get?
Not very many, but I mean, we've been saying that for a few years. Oh, we're not going to get this many years, that many years. Oh, and get this. We can see a possibility of Kirk Ferentz breaking that Big Ten record, although, we won't get there yet. But, yeah.
I mean, another game. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, buddy.
Because I think we'll get there later on. But I think, his coaching record for conference wins in the Big Ten, it won't be for a few weeks.
Another game, Jackson. Another game. UCLA at UNLV. That's another really intriguing game. Dan Mullings in year one, Deshaun Foster. That could be a sneaky, underrated game to watch.
Agreed.
Like
Crazy
you mentioned,
Uncle
Illinois
Eddie
Duke.
Back in the coaching.
Like you mentioned, Illinois Duke. That's going to be fun. When there's Penn State playing their cupcake.
Yeah, of course.
Miami, Ohio, Rutgers. Another fun, interesting game. A group of five upset possible there.
Oh, I mean, there's one. Georgia Southern USC. Clay Helton going against his old school.
Yep, the Clay Helton return. This is true.
Well,
I mean,
it's not the USC return story that I wanted, but it's something at the very least.
yeah, it's not the one that you wanted, Jackson, but it's the one we're gonna get. So
Hey,
let's just
I'm
be
even
thankful we're
there.
getting one.
Maybe the one that we need.
Mm-hmm. Boston College, Michigan State, Bill O'Brien and Jonathan Smith, two hard-nosed football teams in East Lansing. Any takers on that one for week 2?
I'm not taking anybody right now.
Here's another one too. Jackson, Oklahoma State, Oregon. Is this a game Mike Gundy? No, could Mike Gundy save his job by winning in Autzen?
Spoiler alert, no.
I mean, obviously, Jackson, week 2, it's got some good, it's got some bad, of course. I mean, Michigan, Oklahoma's our headliner, I think. That's going to be the game everyone's going to look forward to. BC, Michigan State, wouldn't sleep on it. UCLA, UNLV, wouldn't sleep on it. Oklahoma State, Oregon could be good. No Ollie Gordon, though. I mean, week 2 is pretty good.
I wonder what network we're gonna see like Iowa State on. And since the first 3 weeks aren't gonna be finalized until Memorial Day, I'm wondering which
Mm-hmm.
one of these games are a Friday game. Because I mean, we're not gonna see any of these games be a Thursday game, especially with the
No.
NFL kickoff game coming up.
Mm-mm. More than likely, Jackson, they'll probably throw like FIU Penn State or something on Thursday and be like, here, shoot. They'll throw something on there to say they threw it on there.
Or
Because
maybe
most of the time,
like Georgia Southern, USC, or Illinois Duke.
yeah, something that people will watch if the NFL kickoff game is a blowout, but something where they won't seem like they're competing with the NFL.
We need to have more headliner games for the first 3 weeks of the season.
I mean, week 2's not bad. I wish it was better, but maybe week 3, Jackson. Maybe that's when we
True.
start cooking.
I'll be
Maybe the
honest,
Big
that
Ten is.
Michigan Oklahoma game, that is the one to keep an eye on because Brent Venables' seat in Norman, Oklahoma, and that Michigan recruiting class coming on in to Ann Arbor, going to Norman, Oklahoma on Saturday night on ABC with Kirk Herbstreit and his puppy dog.
Mm-hmm. I mean, like I said though, Jackson, let's see if week 3 gets cooking.
Well, it's something so
Mm-hmm.
far. I mean, oh
Mm-hmm.
God, Minnesota. Just don't put that game on College Game Day. That's all I ask.
Minnesota Cal.
Don't do it.
And no, we are not going to get in a 60-minute argument over whether Cal was worthy of College Game Day and what that meant. We'll save that for the archives. If you want to go back in the archives and watch that, feel free. But this is not what this show is for.
No. But
But
we got Oregon
West,
starting conference play with Northwestern. I mean, did anybody think we'd be calling that a Big Ten conference game 10, 15 years ago? I think not.
no. Another game kind of sticks off the page. I mean, sticks off the page. New Mexico, UCLA could be another good game.
There we
New
go.
Mexico,
Let's go New Mexico, America. I'm just kidding.
because New Mexico kind of got hot down the stretch in the year. USC Purdue could be fun.
Oh yeah.
Just for the simple fact of Purdue, could they spoil USC season? But
Right now my
with
eyes are kind of itchy and they're a little messed up right now. So it's like I don't think you want to see my eyes. So
no, Jackson did not get beat up. We can confirm that. Right, Jackson? You did not get
that's
beat up
right.
for stealing someone's wife. You would not do such a thing.
No, I'm a good boy.
But what you would do, Jackson, is watch Wisconsin and Alabama.
Yeah, I would. They'll put that on Saturday night.
I will say this though, Jackson. How are you feeling? For anybody new that didn't watch the SEC, how are you feeling about Bama, Wisconsin?
I think we're going to be better, especially with Ryan Grubb as our offensive coordinator. I think it's a great addition to our coaching staff. And we'll be figuring out our quarterback situation, but I gotta say, I'm gonna have so much fun watching this game.
I think it'll be fun. I it's a game, Jackson, that we thought last year would be kind of close, but then what happened? Y'all beat the brakes off of them. Now, part of that might have been too. Wisconsin got hit with the injury bug throughout the game, and then Bama's talent just overran them. But
I think honestly, had Wisconsin's QB not gotten hurt in that game, the game would have been much closer than the experts had it. I mean, it would have been really close, kind of like how Oregon, Wisconsin was. And I think a lot of people tend to forget that.
Yeah, I kind of I think that gets lost in translation. Now, would Wisconsin have won the game? I would tend to say no, but the score wouldn't have been 42-10. It wouldn't have been that bad. But I digress. I digress. But going through, you got UMass, Iowa, Oregon, Northwestern, kind of sloppy. Got the cupcakes in there. Townsend, Maryland, and Mike Locksley. There's your free win. Now shoot.
Yeah. Oh man, like
Me,
Mike Locksley, he's on a hot seat.
well, if they can't beat Townsend Jackson, then I don't know what to tell them.
Oh man, the Ohio battle, Ohio and Ohio State. Good grief.
Well, that's probably going to be a butt whooping.
Why are we getting crappy games like to start off season? Like, I'm hating this. Like, I hate it with every conference. But you know what? I'm not going to go into that spiel. But
Jackson, week 4, Jackson. Maybe
go.
week 4 will cheer you up.
There we go. I mean, Wisconsin, Alabama, USC, Purdue are the headliner games for me. Because I want to see what USC is made of to start off the 2025 season. And I want to see what the Barry Odom era is looking like in West Lafayette.
I would agree. Those are the two headliners.
Oh, this looks good. I love this lineup because we got two old rivalries, the Civil War, or as I like to call the Oregon State rivalry, the Gravity Falls Bowl. The Washington State rivalry, also known as the Apple Cup. And we got great conference. Oh, and there's another rivalry, Purdue Notre Dame. That's likely going to be on NBC, of course, because that's a Notre Dame home game. And the rest of these games, not bad. I like it. I mean, Illinois, Indiana, we're going to learn a lot about both of these schools in 2025. Iowa, Rutgers, Kurt Ferentz is trailing behind Woody Hayes for the conference win total in the history of Big Ten football.
In Jackson, Michigan, Nebraska, in Omaha. I mean, I'm really digging that game. Dylan Raiola against the top 10 defense, possibly. Yeah, give it to me. Let's see what the kid's got. And like you said, Michigan State, USC, Jonathan Smith, Lincoln Riley, Purdue, Notre Dame. I mean, Oregon State, the Apple Cup, the Civil War. This is a nice week. This is a
Very.
nice week. Indiana, I think, is the headliner because these are two perennial top 25 teams and playing in Bloomington. We're going to see, like you said, what Signetti and them's built, if it's been sustainable. Is Brett Bielema, what he's built, what his success was last year, are they going to keep building off of that? Indiana, Illinois, I think, is the headliner for this week.
Well, and honestly, I'm kind of torn between Illinois, Indiana, and Michigan, Nebraska, because I mean, again, the third year of the Matt Rule era is really beginning, and we're gonna see what this matchup can bring. This looks like a CBS or a big name kickoff game, really.
Mm-hmm. And B Bean says Oregon State is too early in the season. Listen, I wish it was on rivalry week like Jackson, but I'm happy we're still getting the game and they didn't take it from us.
For now. For now.
But I will say though, Jackson,
I don't want to turn into Penn State Pittsburgh.
That's why, Jackson, I think this year could be a pivotal year in this rivalry. Because if Oregon State does not win this year, they may not see the need for this rivalry anymore.
Oh, Lord.
And Jackson, we're going to get to one of those here in a few minutes because there was a certain USC fan that believes one of their rivals is no longer non-existent and should be done away with. But we'll get to that.
Oh, yeah.
But week 4, the headliner, I think, is Illinois, Indiana.
Yep. Now we get the week 5. I mean, the headliner of this week, no questions asked, is the Big Ten title rematch between Oregon and Penn State. I wonder if they're going to consider putting this game on NBC. I mean, I know, like, usually you would put it on Big Noon Kickoff because it's the best one, but I would let NBC have this one. Let Penn State have their little whiteout moment.
B-Bean, I'm glad you caught my hint. And he says, good point. Yes. In which and it's not just Oregon State, Oregon either, B-Bean. There's a lot of rivalries that could go that way. That if the team doesn't win this year, it could go away altogether. But my apologies, Jackson. Go ahead.
Or there are certain rivalries that could go away regardless of who wins. But USC Illinois looks like a pretty underrated matchup. And so is Indiana Iowa, because if we're seeing Indiana in the top 25 still, you know what that means? That means trouble. You're a top 25 team that goes to Kinnick Stadium, that's always trouble. It may have not meant so in 2022, but when looking back at the entire Kirk Ferentz era, it has usually meant scary stuff was coming. It came to Penn State in 2008. It came to Michigan in 2016. And let's see, 2023, did it come to anybody? No, it didn't, because it was a sloppy schedule that year.
Well, and I want to bring this up too, Jackson. Ohio State, Washington. I know on the surface, not a lot of people are going to talk about it, but don't sleep on this game because it's at Husky Stadium. And especially if it's a night game, upset could happen.
Ooh.
Just ask Michigan. You remember, Jackson? Everyone thought Michigan was a sure thing to win that game this past year. And it was on NBC. It was a nighttime game. And what happened? Washington showed up when the lights were on the brightest. So if this game is a night game on Fox or NBC or whatever network, Washington's going to put up a fight. Don't sleep on Ohio State, Washington.
Oh,
don't do it.
That's a good. Good catch right there, because I'm not gonna sleep on it for sure.
Rutgers, Wisconsin, and Cam Brandel. That could be a season-defining game for Rutgers and Greg Schiano. Luke Fickell could be a game towards bowl eligibility. I mean, week 5 has got some good, got some bad, but obviously, like you said, Jackson, Oregon, Penn State, the Big Ten title rematch is obviously the headliner. It's the game everyone's going to watch.
Oh yeah.
And then there's UCLA Northwestern. I mean, if you want to watch that and torture yourself, feel free.
Illinois USC looks like it could be a good one.
No, I said UCLA Northwestern, Jackson.
Oh, my bad. Apparently, I'm losing hearing. My bad.
UCLA Northwestern, good buddy. That game
UCLA
could be.
Northwestern. What did we do to deserve that one? It's like I'm thinking something bad. I think we did something bad to somebody to deserve that game.
Yeah, Jackson, that's probably going to be first 1 to 20 wins that game.
Oh, God.
Whoever scores 21st wins that game. And I'm being dead serious, too, not even trying to be funny. That's going to be like a 20-17 type victory for whoever wins.
I feel like we can get better plays from the Three Stooges than anybody on Northwestern's or UCLA's offense for that one.
But week 5, Jackson, looking pretty good in the Big Ten. Big Ten stepping it up a little bit. But week 6, how will they top it?
Sloppy play, which means one thing. Upsets could be coming.
Week 6 is kind of a letdown. I mean, Penn State, UCLA.
Oh, they'll put Washington, it on kickoff again.
Washington, Maryland could be a letdown game, especially if Washington. I mean, especially if Washington upsets Ohio State, could be a letdown game. Wisconsin, Michigan, hold the phone.
Okay,
that's going to be a good one, man. That's going to be a good one in Ann Arbor.
Illinois, Purdue. Now, last year, Purdue almost upset Illinois. Illinois almost blew it.
Yep. Michigan State, Nebraska could be fun. Minnesota, Ohio State. Not feeling Minnesota, Ohio State right now. But my mind could change.
I feel like Northwestern, Michigan could be that headliner. And it's funny, though. This is 17 years after Michigan had that really horrible year in 2008 where they went 3-9 in Rich Rod's first year. But one of the few bright sides of that year was making a 27 unanswered point comeback against Wisconsin, where Wisconsin was leading 19-0 at that time. And Brad Nessler was calling that game on ABC or ESPN2, depending on your local listings at that time.
Yeah, Wisconsin, Michigan, I think is the headliner. Northwestern, they got their cupcake. Good for them. I mean, week 6 is kind of sloppy. But as you said, though, Jackson, we could have a few upsets in there.
Oh, yeah. I still cannot believe watching Maryland the Big Ten game. Like, oh, my God. Like, 15 years ago, this was considered a Pac-10 ACC matchup.
I know, right? Crazy.
It's too funny.
But yeah, Wisconsin, Michigan, I think is the Big Ten headliner for this week. But maybe week 7, Jackson, maybe we'll get some more good games.
Oh, there we go. We've been good, haven't we? There we go. Hey, we got, and you know, even though UCLA Michigan State doesn't look like a good game, there's nostalgia to that. Know why? because it's basically
Why's that?
an old rematch of the 1966 Rose Bowl from the 1965 year, where UCLA spoiled Michigan State's natty hopes from a regular season rematch from the 1965 season.
Indiana, Oregon, and Autzen. That's going to be a really interesting game. More for the Indiana perspective of it, because now you're playing the big boys, and a lot of people are waiting to see, okay, Indiana, let's see your stuff. Let's
Is
see if Cincinnati can
USC
hang.
gunning for revenge against Michigan? That's going to be the question.
Yep.
Can they get it done?
Yep, Michigan going across country to play USC. Good point out there, Jackson. Northwestern, Penn State, Ohio State, Illinois.
Yes, let's go.
Rutgers, Washington, a rematch of the Blackout Friday game they had last year, but this time in Husky Stadium.
And the Iowa Wisconsin matchup. Don't forget about that, man.
Yeah. Iowa, Wisconsin. Can't forget about that classic. I think the headliner for this week, Jax, is probably going to be Michigan, USC, followed by Indiana, Oregon. I mean, like you said, there's significance in all these. Jackson, this is a pretty good week by the Big Ten. They stepped it up. They were like, okay, we got to give them some more good games.
There we go. I'm loving it, honestly. This is a pretty good lineup.
But Jackson, can week 8 top it? Are they going to outdo themselves?
Or do we name our headliner game? For me, my headliner game, some people might balk at this, but I think Michigan USC is going to be my headliner game.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Jackson. Michigan SC would be mine too. I think because I think that'll be more of a competitive game than Indiana Oregon might be.
Now, the last time Illinois beat Ohio State was in 2007. That was when Juice Williams led them to victory in Columbus, 28-21. And the last time Illinois. Now, this game is in Champaign, Illinois. And the last time Illinois defeated Ohio State in Champaign was in 1991, where they won 10-7. They make history. Can Brett Bielema make Illinois some history? Or is that a no? We'll find out on October 11th. And funny enough, it's nearing it'll be on like the day after this will be the 34th anniversary of Illinois' last win in Champaign. So shout out to our guys, Sonny Verma at Locked On Illini and Nate the Great on Illinois at the Voice of College Football.
Yeah. I mean, that's a pretty good game. Pretty good. Go for it, good buddy. What's week 8 got in store for us?
Well, we got Ohio State, Wisconsin. Oh, whoa. Penn State got to go to Iowa. Oh, man. They're going to need to say some prayers. And I'll tell you this, though. It's the week before they go to Columbus to play the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Track game.
Classic track game.
And then, of course, Jackson, there's your Washington, Michigan, and Ann Arbor, our rematch from last year. Is Michigan gunning for revenge? Like you said, Oregon, Rutgers, and Piscataway. Maryland, UCLA. Oh, gosh. What do we deserve to? Okay. Thanks, Big Ten, for having to make us sit and watch that. But, anywho, like you said, man. Michigan State, Indiana, the old brass platoon.
There you go.
I mean, that could be fun. But Ohio State, Wisconsin, Jackson, and Camp Randall, Wisconsin's been known to give some teams some run for the money in Camp Randall. They did it with Oregon last year.
That game I didn't think about. Good catch, Austin.
Yep, Ohio State, Wisconsin. I wouldn't sleep on that, especially since it's
No.
in Camp Randall. And if they put that on NBC at night, upset, upset.
Ooh.
And your
Well,
favorite rivalry, Jeff?
there we go. Notre Dame USC rival. Now that, of course, will be on NBC, but looks like it'll be on nighttime.
Mm-hmm. And which Jackson, the unfortunate elephant in the room, because I think we should
Yeah.
talk about it, is USC Notre Dame is being rumored to no longer be continued.
After
It's being
playing
rumored
close
though.
games.
Yes, but let me state though, it's just a rumor right now. We're not breaking any news or anything. We don't know anything definitive, but there's been rumors for years of its demise. And
Yeah.
I'm going to say this, and I'm going to call him out on it, and I'm sure Jackson won't mind. But Colin Cowherd has been a big component of getting rid of this rivalry because he
Yeah.
doesn't see the value in it. He doesn't think it's worth playing, and he thinks USC so far ahead and above Notre Dame that it shouldn't even be bothered to be played. Now, Jackson, this is where I'm going to turn it over to you. What do you have to say to Mr. Cowherd and why this rivalry should stay intact?
I feel like Colin Cowherd has not kept up with the rivalry enough, and I feel like he hasn't really watched college football enough. But I think the fact of the matter is, and this is an unfortunate truth, that what's really bugging USC is fact they're having to travel to Penn State 1 week, to Ohio 1 week, to go home to play Michigan State. I think travel's, kind of bothering them a little bit, but I mean, I think Notre Dame USC should just play each other every year, no matter what. Now, it's like I've never understood like people being mad at Notre Dame for not being in a conference. I think the fact of the matter is like all those people that are mad, they're like, oh well, join, be like everybody else, be like everybody else. It's
Mm-hmm.
just like you're mad that you have to suck it up and do as you're told by your conference, and Notre Dame doesn't have to. And that's what a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people are really, but they'll never admit it. And it was when I talked with Trevor Trowbridge from Irish
Mm-hmm.
Breakdown. Yeah, he said like all those people that are mad at Notre Dame for not being in a conference, they'll just be mad at something else. It's like, oh well, they should just be in a conference like everybody else. Oh well, why'd you pick that conference? Oh, why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? They'll find something else to be mad at. But if Notre Dame did have to join conference, I would prefer for it to be the Big Ten. Honestly, I
Mm-hmm.
really
Yeah.
do, because I mean, I want them back playing Michigan every year. I want them back playing Michigan State every year. I want to see them play Purdue. I want to see them play Ohio State. I don't give a rat's behind about Notre Dame, Penn State. I I want to see Penn State join the bid, not Penn State, but Pittsburgh. But oh well, we're not going to see Pittsburgh join the Big Ten, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, because it's like if I'm Notre Dame, I like being able to schedule my own games. I mean, what college football fan would say no to scheduling to their teams scheduling their own games, all 12 games for a change, having their own TV contract where they get to keep the money for themselves and not have to share it with anybody, and you don't have to answer anything.
Mm-hmm.
I wish like
Mm-hmm.
college football was like the 60s, 70s, 80s, but it's not like that. We're not in that era anymore. And
Nope.
I'll tell you this though, it would be wise. I mean, everybody's like wanting the 80s reboot. I mean, it's not gonna happen. And at this point, it's just gonna have to take everybody go, oh well, we're all mad at our conference. We're gonna do what Notre Dame's doing because that will probably happen at some point in my lifetime. Yeah, they
Ooh,
do. They do.
and B being asked if Notre Dame cannot schedule
Go look
competitive
at
games,
FBS
will they?
schedules. Go look at FBS schedules. They got Florida. They got Bama. Oh my God. It's like, don't blame Notre Dame for Florida State having a bitch fit in the 2024 season.
Oh my goodness. Oh
Like
my goodness.
it,
But
and like they didn't plan for Florida State to be crappy. It's like, but matter of fact,
yes.
take a look at that 2025 schedule. It's killer. It's a killer schedule. I mean, like
Hmm.
you got Texas A&M, you got Arkansas, you got Clemson.
Boise State.
Nope, not Clemson. My mistake. You got Miami coming at home, but Notre Dame has to go on the road. But I mean, that's gonna be a good one. Arkansas, you know, like Austin said, Boise, and you gotta go to Pitt because that's where dreams go to die.
Hmm. See, Jackson's making the case right now why this is good for the sport. But
Not
there's
that
Jackson. There's also Jackson, but there's also those non-believers too. Why this is bad for the sport.
well, I say let them complain because like they're all mad that they're not Notre Dame.
Hmm.
That's
What
what
I'll say.
everybody. That's what all the people that are mad or complaining or having, like the people that are venting about Notre Dame not being in a conference. They're like the middle-aged moms that have to vent at the cafes about, my children, my husband. I go through everything. Oh, but I love them.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But
Well, and the dads are doing the same thing. They're like, smoking a cigarette. They're just like, oh, I'm going through a lot. This and that's like, this is why I like being independent. It's like, oh no, it's the best thing ever. It's like same thing's happening where it's like, all these teams are venting about their conference. Notre Dame fans sitting there going, this is why we love being independent. Oh, but we love our conference. We're just venting. We're just venting about the Big Ten at the moment. We're just venting about the ACC. You just got done, you just got done having a mental episode on the ACC. Oh, but we're just venting about them. Everybody vents. Hey, I can be mean when I need to be, and this is one of those nights. I'm never really mean about things, but when I am, you'll know it.
Jackson's just very protective of rivalries he loves. But back to the Big Ten schedule, though. USC Notre Dame is at least going to happen.
Yeah.
At least going to happen for now. Purdue Northwestern. Oh gosh. Listen, I'll watch Purdue Northwestern because it's part of our job. But I'm gonna be. I'm gonna need to
They
be
don't
like.
pay us enough for that shit.
I mean, so let me ask you, Jackson. What's your headliner for this week?
I'm gonna go with Notre Dame, USC, and Penn State, Iowa.
I'm probably gonna go Penn State, Iowa, and probably Ohio State, Wisconsin, and then USC, Notre Dame. They would probably be my headliners. My under the radar game would be Michigan State, Indiana, especially if Michigan State has improved. That could be a good game. Nebraska, Minnesota could be a real fun, competitive game. But I mean, I mean, this is a pretty good slate. Oregon, Rutgers, and Piscataway. I mean, does Coach Shiano have a little magic left? We'll see. Could be an under the radar
Oh,
upset.
Rutgers has a scary schedule.
But Jackson, week 9. Let's see if week 9. Surely goodness, we're going to get something. Come on, do us right, Big Ten.
Well, we got the Minnesota Iowa rivalry and the Michigan State rivalries. That's something.
Yeah, week 9. They made a couple good weeks, Jackson. Now we're kind of back to the again. I mean, Wisconsin, Oregon, and Autzen, UCLA, Indiana. Rutgers, Purdue, Northwestern, Nebraska. Ooh, Minnesota, Iowa, good classic rivalry. Michigan, Michigan State. Illinois, Washington. I'm gonna be tuned into that, especially in Husky Stadium. I mean, Washington Home's a dangerous team to play. I'm looking forward to it.
You got that right. It's a good one.
I mean, the headliner probably for this week, Jackson, would probably be Michigan, Michigan State, just for the tradition of it. I mean, I ain't gonna sleep on Wisconsin, Oregon, Minnesota, Iowa, but Michigan, Michigan State, I think would be my headliner.
There you go.
What about you, good buddy? What's your headliner? What games you look forward to for Week 9?
Michigan State and Minnesota, Iowa, AKA the Florida Rosedale in Kinnick Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that's gonna be a good one.
So those are your headliners. UCLA, Indiana could be fun, I guess.
The battle for the Paul Bunyan Trophy is good. Michigan, Michigan State, Rutgers, Purdue. Okay, that's better. It could be a letdown. Where's my cue card where I'm supposed to say something nice about this game?
Well, Jackson, what I will say is if Rutgers does upset Oregon, Purdue, this is their perfect opportunity to be the what, Jackson? Go ahead, say it.
The upset, the opportunity to pull off that upset. I mean, Barry Odom's
the spoiler makers.
Oh, they're going to be spoiling everybody. I mean, like Barry Odom's going to make some magic at West Lafayette. He's going to. I mean, so he's winning at Rutgers, but he's not going to win quite like he did when Rutgers was in the Big East. I mean, they're just you can't blame Rutgers really. I mean, I don't think you can really blame Shiano. Like, you know, they're in the Big Ten. They need to just trade you, but they should just trade them to the ACC, and in exchange, they get Pittsburgh. That's what I think should be done. I mean, there's no rules on you can't trade teams. I mean, seriously, who gets this side over Penn State, Rutgers, or Maryland Rutgers? Nobody.
That's true too. But yeah, for Week 9, I mean, it's more rivalry centric, which I like it. Physical, intense, but kind of a sloppy slate. But Week 10, let's see what Week 10 has to offer. Oh,
go.
Here we go.
Oh, we got
Penn State,
Ohio. My eyes are a little messed up, Darrell. That's why, man.
We got Darrell in the house. Darrell, whoop whoop. Go Cards, Darrell. I mean, even though you're a Kentucky guy, I know, but
go Wildcats, roll Tide, man.
See, Darrell, before we came on air, Darrell, don't let Jackson fool you. He got on my nerves, and I had to hit him a couple times.
Yeah.
You know, he was talking about how he was going to go to Vegas and place all of his chips on the Titans win the Super Bowl. So I had to hit him a few times, but it was all for love, Darrell. All for love. Well, but anywho, back to the Big Ten.
We're just having some fun tonight, but allergies are kind of screwing with me in Bama. Apparently, spring decided to kick back up where I'm at, so it's like, yeah. And they're screwing with Austin and Kentucky too.
Yeah, my allergies are getting me bad too. And it didn't help that I was screaming at the top of my lungs earlier for the Louisville game, but I digress. You didn't come here to hear our sob stories.
Nope.
You came here to talk about the Big Ten. And B-Bean says the Big Ten has only one game that week.
Well, to be fair, he is right. Because, I mean, Penn State, Ohio State is the game of the week.
See, here's the thing, Jackson. And I'm not trying to sound like a Debbie Downer, But this game just doesn't excite me because Penn State always blows it.
Well, I mean, James
Like
Franklin, he's like Charlie Brown at that pitcher's mound.
like Jackson, but like tell me a reason why I should be excited for this game other than it's two
Because it could
big
be
brand
the
names.
year. It could be the year. It could be the year.
Jackson, how many years have we been saying this now that it could be the year?
Since we were like becoming teenagers.
Listen, like I said, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but I'm going to watch it because it's a big game and we're paid to talk about it and we love to talk about it. But my hype level is at a 5 for it.
Well, it should be at a 10 because they took Jim Knowles away.
Jackson, I don't think that really matters because Ohio State's got them on speed dial. Like they're like, okay, you took our DC, that's nice. Let me call your girl. Let me steal her.
Oh yeah, Matt Patricia. Like I'm sure Matt Patricia's gonna be. He's gonna be all right. I mean, he's gonna be like. He's probably gonna be scratching himself, being like, Patriots days."
Oh no! Oh Lord! But in all seriousness, though, that is an interesting storyline in that game. I mean, Rutgers, Illinois. I mean, what do you think, Jackson? Any incitement there?
We're gonna wait and see. USC Nebraska looks good though.
Yeah, that could be a fun late season game. Michigan State, Minnesota. It might. I mean, could. I mean, obviously the headliner, Penn State, Ohio State, Indiana, Maryland. Jax, is there any chance Maryland could spring an upset on Indiana?
No.
Or is Mike Locksley era in Maryland just
who knows
going downhill?
Who knows? I've been saying
Purdue, Michigan.
I've been saying his butt needs to be on a hot seat for years. Like, the only reason why he's even there was because he was working for Coach Saban. I mean, why else would you be hiring someone who's 3-33 as a head coach? I know that we should believe in redemption. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not hiring somebody that was 3-33.
Yeah, I don't know what possessed Maryland to do that. I mean, I get it, you're Maryland, but come on,
mistake.
gotta have
2-26. My mistake. 2-26. I was getting the stats all wrong, but either way, it's bad. I mean, that doesn't make it any better.
It's piss poor either way.
It's bad.
It's like bad when you eat a bad burrito and they make you go to the back door. That's what Maryland is. They're that bad.
Eating that god awful Krabby Patty that's molded, or like Mr. Krabs eating it and then goes to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
It's bad. That bad.
But Jackson, you want to know what's not bad? Maybe the Week 11 slate for the Big Ten. Maybe that's not bad.
Hey, Indiana, that's a good one.
I spoke too soon.
You see something I don't? Ohio State, Purdue, Oregon, and Iowa.
Iowa. Yes. Spoilers. Wisconsin, Washington, Jackson. I thought in Camp Randall that could be a late season game. Nebraska going out west to UCLA could be potential, going cross country. Like you said, Oregon, Iowa, Ohio State, Purdue. I mean, 2 trap games. Indiana. I think the headliner will be Indiana, Penn State, assuming Indiana holds up their end of it. Oh gosh, Maryland at Rutgers. Oh gosh. Well,
Rutgers. Like, who has seriously gotten up on rivalry week ever thought, or at any point since Maryland Rutgers joined the Big Ten and thought themselves, I'm so excited about that Maryland Rutgers game. That's going to be the best game to watch. Said nobody ever.
Yeah. I mean, like Oregon, Iowa has a lot of intrigue because Oregon's going to Kinnick, and if it's a night game, that makes it even more intriguing because Kinnick at night is a whole nother freaking atmosphere. I mean, they have one of the best night game atmospheres I've ever watched. It's unreal. I mean, Purdue, they've had Ohio State's number a couple different times throughout the years. Northwestern, USC, oh gosh. Northwestern, good luck. You're going cross country. But yeah, the headliner will be Indiana Penn State for week 11, in my opinion. Unless you disagree with me, Jack. Do you got a different headliner?
I've got no disagreements with you on that one.
Week 12, Jackson. We're one step closer to rivalry week.
There we go. Well, here we go. Oh, there we go. Iowa USC. Oh man.
Yeah. I mean, Minnesota Oregon could be. This is kind of lacking. Right. Well, we shouldn't be surprised, Jackson. The week before rivalry week's always Cupcake Central.
Hate that, but oh well.
Jackson, what's the headliner in this week?
Iowa,
Wisconsin.
USC.
I was going to say Wisconsin, Indiana, possibly. I mean,
either way, this does not look like a good slate. Looks pitiful.
Yeah, they're letting us down on rivalry week again.
Looks like a stinking trash heap.
Like listen to anyone watching. We're trying not to sound negative, but my gosh, the SEC and Big Ten. Next week, when we talk about either the Big 12 or ACC schedule next week, I guarantee you there will not be this many cupcakes. I would bet my bankroll on it that we will not see this many cupcakes.
God.
No matter which schedule we preview next week.
It's bad.
What's your headliner for this week, Jackson? I think I asked you. Yeah, you said Iowa, USC.
Mm-hmm. And you said Wisconsin, Indiana.
Yeah, that tells you how bad it is. We're over here forgetting.
Oh, man. Do you remember the good old days of Wisconsin scoring 83 points against Indiana in your lifetime?
I wish I could say I remember that. I was probably real little.
Well, it's in 2010, so you're right.
Yeah, I was a little feller. I was just getting into the sport.
Man, you're like...
But it's okay.
Okay, so you're eligible for the drinking age as of 2024, so you're about to turn 7 at that time. So you're a few weeks away. You were 6 years old.
I mean, I'm 22 now, so I got into college football about when I was 8.
You became my mistake. I was a year off. Crap. But yeah, you were 7, about to turn 8.
Yeah, I just started to get into the sport.
There you go.
I remember watching more NFL than I did college. I found college on my own.
There you go.
But Jackson, rivalry week. We can always count on rivalry week, right?
Yeah, we can, but not just yet. Because we got...
Oh, this is the week before rivalry. My apologies. Shows where our brain is. Yeesh. This is the week before rivalry day.
This does look like a pretty underrated lineup because, I mean, we're going to see where Nebraska is by that time against Penn State. We're going to be seeing Penn State possibly play for either a spot in the Big Ten title once again or a spot in the top 4 of the Big Ten. And we got USC, Oregon. I got to tell you, man, Anybody that's watching USC at the Voice College Football and Oregon at the Voice College Football, it is heated between those two.
Jackson, do you see a game that I'm thinking of right now at the top of your screen?
Well, I know everybody's going to say USC and Oregon, but me, I think it's Brett Bielema going against Wisconsin. His old school at Camp Randall. I mean that game to me should be on CBS. That it just screams CBS, not Big Ten Network, not Fox Sports 1, but on CBS.
You read my mind, Jackson. Illinois, Wisconsin, the week before rivalry week, Camp Randall. This is going to be a good one. I think we're in for a treat that day.
There we go. That's going to be a banger. A banger.
Yes, Michigan State and Iowa. That's going to be fun. Will Iowa get their revenge after Michigan State won this past year in East Lansing? Washington, UCLA, a Pac-12 rivalry reunited. SC, Oregon. Minnesota, Northwestern. We'll watch it because we get paid to. Other than that, shoot.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
Does Rutgers have a chance at all?
No.
In Columbus.
Ohio State's going to throw 59 points at them. Although, that's right. It's the week before rivalry week. That means one thing. Closer than the experts have it. And we're going to see that yet again with Michigan, Maryland.
Yep, Jackson. Rutgers, Ohio State, Michigan, Maryland might be one-score games. And people are going to be like, what's wrong with these two for rivalry week?
Good.
But
Lord.
I'll say this, Jackson. Illinois, Wisconsin for me is the headliner. I'm looking forward to this game more than the other one. It's like this is a pretty underrated slate, but Illinois, Wisconsin is going to be the game that I think will headline this week. That we'll be talking about the most when it's all said and done. What say you, good buddy?
Right there with you, partner. Right there with you. And finally, the rivalry week slate. Oh, there we go.
Iowa, Nebraska on Black Friday where it belongs.
I suppose it should. You know? I mean, it's like to you, yeah, because it's like, you started getting around college football around like the 2010s. So it's like, to you, this should be like, the generation equivalent of like Arkansas LSU, like in the 90s, where it's like people are like, Arkansas LSU? And then like as the years went on, it's like, oh, Arkansas LSU, nice. Same thing with Iowa and Nebraska. I mean, because it was like, people were missing Nebraska, Colorado, but it's like Iowa, Nebraska, Black Friday. It would not be Black Friday without Iowa, Nebraska. It just feels right.
Yeah, and obviously Jackson. I mean, it just seems like if Iowa, Nebraska's not on Black Friday, what are we doing?
Yeah. I mean, because it's like, there we go. But I honestly can't help but wonder if any of these 8 games on these lists will be on Black Friday. Because I mean, it's like, will we see Wisconsin, Minnesota on there? Will we see Oregon, Washington on there? Will we see USC, UCLA on there? I mean, it's gonna be a mess. That's the thing.
And then obviously, Jackson, the headliner for this week is going to be the game. It's going to be on Big Noon Kickoff, more than likely, and the whole world's going to watch.
There we go.
And UCLA and USC, Jackson, the LA Bowl, as I like to call it, that could be a fun game to watch. Wisconsin, Minnesota. What's Wisconsin thinking after last year? Oregon, Washington.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's gonna be a good question. I mean, Michigan, Ohio State's the headliner right there. I mean, there's no questions asked. I mean, what's Big Ten rivalry week without Michigan, Ohio State? I mean, at least nobody's gonna take that game away from us.
Well, Jackson, I mean, is this possibly the last impactful one? Meaning because Michigan, Ohio State could potentially play
Yeah,
three
they
times a
say
year.
that. I mean, there's always going to be an impact in the Michigan Ohio State rivalry. I mean, that's probably the same thing people are saying about like the LSU Ole Miss rivalry in like the 1959 season when it was the 1960 Sugar Bowl, where it was like LSU won on Halloween night with Billy Cannon's punt return, and then Ole Miss wins in a revenge matchup. I mean, the Michigan Ohio State rivalry is fine. I mean, it may not have an impact like 1973, for example, where it's like 10-10 tie. The ADs are voting on who's going to go to the Rose Bowl between the two. It's not like that, but still, the Michigan Ohio State rivalry is always going to have a national impact on somebody. It's always going to have a national impact in all of college football. It doesn't matter if they play each other twice. And I don't think they're going to play each other 3 times. Like, not in the 2025 season or 2026 season anyway. They'll probably play each other twice if it does happen. But I mean, nobody's going to sit there and go, "Oh God, the Ohio State Michigan rivalry sucks now because they play each other twice or 3 times." Nobody is going to say that. Those people saying that now are going to be saying a whole different thing when it actually happens. That I can personally guarantee. Wait and see.
And now I gotta say this, Jackson. Penn State Rutgers. What the heck kind of rivalry is that?
It's not. Penn State likes to say they're unrivaled.
Okay. Yeah, Penn State Rutgers and Piscataway. I mean, Michigan State, Maryland, Jackson. Were those do these 4 teams just not have a rivalry to go off of? And the Big Ten was like, okay,
Nope.
here, we'll make you a
Yeah,
rival with this team.
exactly. I mean, that's pretty much what happened. I mean, like Penn State really doesn't have any permanent rivals in the Big Ten, really.
I mean, obviously, obviously, you got Indiana, Purdue up there. They've always been a rivalry. UCLA, USC, Michigan, Ohio State. But then you come down, you got Penn State, Rutgers at Piscataway, and Maryland, Michigan State, and East Lansing. Like, what the? I'm trying to figure that out. But okay, we're not the schedule makers, and they didn't ask for our opinion.
Well, I'll say this though. If I were the Big Ten commissioner, I would trade Rutgers to the ACC, and then in return, I get Pittsburgh, so that we can have Penn State Pittsburgh rivalry every year on rivalry week. Because I mean, for once, people would really tune in. Like you can tune in on Black Friday, you can tune in on Thanksgiving. I mean, who wouldn't get excited about a Penn State Pittsburgh game being a Big Ten matchup? I mean, I know Pittsburgh's not exactly all that, but I mean, look back at the whole history of the rivalry, and you're going to be calling for this game to come back. As a matter of fact, just look back at 2016 through 2019. Tell me that wasn't amazing seeing Penn State Pittsburgh come back. I mean, Pittsburgh, you want to talk about an impact in all college football. Pittsburgh had an impact on Penn State 2016. Pittsburgh beat Penn State. Little did anybody know at that time that it would keep Penn State out of the playoffs despite winning the Big Ten title for 2016. 2019,
Mm-hmm.
Penn State almost got upset by Pittsburgh. I mean, anybody that's saying, "Oh well, Penn State Pittsburgh is not an impactful," right? Read about the rivalry, man. Read about the rivalry. Pittsburgh got upset by Pitt in 1981. 1976, Pittsburgh, Pitt State was basically, they were just going at it. You know what I mean? It's like when you look back at the 80s, look back at the 70s. Penn State, Pittsburgh was freaking college football royalty. It was college
Mm-hmm.
football royalty.
Mm-hmm. But
How about
obviously,
Triangle?
very enlightful, Jackson. Clan. But obviously, Michigan Ohio State is the headliner, and I don't think anybody would disagree with us on that. But we do have a caller to take, and he's becoming a regular, and he's becoming a normal. You know him, you love him. He's your favorite SEC homer. He is a voice of college football legend and Hall of Famer if they ever have one. He would be the first inductee, and he is the goat of goats. He's the
There you go.
lovely and
Whether you
always
love him, whether you love who he
yes.
pulls for or hate who he pulls for, you're gonna get a laugh out of this guy, and you're gonna enjoy watching him all the
Yes.
time, right? And even if you don't enjoy him, I guarantee you're gonna enjoy him over time. He is the one and only himself, the real MVP. How you doing?
Hello,
tonight,
gentlemen.
bro?
How are we doing this evening?
Doing pretty good. How you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing good. That was a good breakdown of the schedule there. It's kind of weird to me how college football, I don't know if it's by happenstance or they purposefully do it, but they'll put like 3 or 4 massive games in 1 week, and then you'll go 2 or 3 weeks where you get like nice games, but not really impactful on the major schedule. And then you'll have another week where it's like you got another massive game. So I wish they would more evenly distribute these games out. What are your thoughts, gentlemen?
Well, I just wish that the first few weeks wouldn't be so sloppy and the last few weeks wouldn't be so sloppy. But it's like you said, they're probably just building it up for the middle of the season. They're building it up,
Mm-hmm. And I've noticed it too. And all conferences have done it, but I've noticed it especially with the SEC and the Big Ten. They tend to save their best stuff for later, like Penn State, Oregon, Indiana, Oregon. They kind of slated them in and kind of given them like in the middle. And it's kind of like you got all the other games under them who are kind of like appetizers. Like they're not bad games, but they're also not games you would be like, oh, like as a casual fan, you wouldn't just turn it on. Whereas Oregon, Penn State, if you're a casual, you're like, yeah, I'm going to turn that on. That would be the one I'd want. Like, only people like us, Darrell, that are nuts want to watch Purdue Northwestern.
Right. Some Boston College, Michigan State action. Those are the type of games I like because it could be 28-14 in the fourth quarter, and be honest, Boston College can win that football game. I mean, some of
Yes.
these games, like I watched Illinois, Indiana, and it's like Indiana was driving. I was thinking, no way they're going to win this. And Illinois just let the wide receiver run wide open 2 or 3 plays in a row. And it's like only in low-level major football will you see that type of play. You won't see Ohio State or Michigan or these teams just giving up easy game-winning touchdowns. So,
or Rutgers, Illinois, with 31 seconds to go. Some people call it the best game no one watched.
That's very, very, very true. I completely agree with you. Do you think a factor for these lighter schedules is because of the expansion of the college football playoff in the non-conference?
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah, I would not to cut you off, Drew. I would agree with Jackson on that.
Well, why do you think that is?
Well, because like everybody's trying to make it a little easier for themselves. Like, it's like I'm gonna be a little easier on the smaller schools about it, like the schools that aren't blue bloods. I'm like, yeah, I'll cut you some slack on that. But like the Blue Bloods, I'm much harder on them, especially my Blue Blood school.
Yeah, we need some uniformity or some equity in this because I mean Indiana. I'm thinking about even if they just go 12-0, they just don't belong because their non-conference schedule is just that garbage. I mean, their best team they played might be Kennesaw State. I'm sorry, if your best non-conference opponent is Kennesaw State, arguably, I don't believe you should belong in any college football tournament, a playoff of any kind.
There we go. Oh, and we got our good buddy from Locked On Illini Cast, the Big Ten Show, Bears on Tap, Sonny Verma checking out the show. We appreciate you tuning in, good buddy. Tell your friends, your family, and the casters that publish about the magic that Sonny Verma brings on Locked On Illini Cast,
Yes.
the Big Ten Show, and Bears on Tap.
Mm-hmm. And side note, Sonny, great win tonight over Iowa. That was a great bounce back game by you guys. Very proud of y'all. I watched that game. And I was like, Iowa, Illinois, what the heck? I got nothing better to do.
Brad Underwood happy. Keep Brad Underwood happy.
Yeah, I was on earlier with, from the Hawkeye of the Storm. He wasn't on there, Corey. His other guy, Kyle Spence, was on there. And they've had plenty of games where they've lost by 20-plus points. So it's a interesting vibe if you like going over there. If you want to be sad, just go over there. If you feel too happy in life, just go over to that channel and it'll lower the mood greatly for y'all. Because it was just like everybody was low energy, moping around. They had the spirit animal of Eeyore, I guess is the best way to describe it.
Well, Eeyore has a nail up his butt. Like that explains why he's so depressed. I mean, I'd be depressed too if a nail was like just like somebody was like, "Oh, here, I'm gonna hammer in this nail on your butt." It's like,
but to back to Darreel's question though, the thing is, Darreel, I think a lot of reasons why we're getting it is like you said, is because of what the precedents the committee has set of Alabama. They had one of probably the most important wins against Georgia. And they went out and they tried to play a Wisconsin and they did all this. And it was all for nothing in a lot of people's eyes because they're like, does any of that even matter? And it's like, and now a lot of teams are looking like that. Oh, why should we even try to play anybody? Because apparently the committee's telling us even if you beat the team that won your conference, it still might not be good enough.
I kind of sad to think about the direction the sport's going. I mean, I know I've talked about this last week, but the equity in scheduling, specifically in conference scheduling, I think is something that needs to be addressed before we go to this auto bid format. I know there was a meeting today, and I'll be surprised. I'm surprised the SEC didn't lay down the law and said, along with the Big Ten, and say, hey, we're going to do this 4-2-2-1 model, and you all are going to like it, or we're taking our dog and pony show somewhere else.
Oh, kind of like Ted Knight on Caddyshack, where he's going, "You'll get nothing and like it."
Exactly. Because I mean, they have all the leverage, so I just assumed that was just a finalization type thing of where they would just. But it wasn't. It seemed like there was some real friction because they didn't come out with anything. I mean, I found it funny. Jim Phillips, the commissioner of the ACC, went out and said they care about the health of the sport. I mean, congrats, the ACC, the conference with Cal and Stanford, and with SMU cares about the health of the sport going forward. Man, so I wish he would have figured this out 2 years ago, but you know, I guess it's better late than never. What are your thoughts, Austin?
I'll say this. Our commissioner, sometimes I'll say this to real, he just falls in line. And that's okay every now and then. But then there's times where he says some things where it's like you're 10 days late or you're a year behind there, dude. And it's like, and I saw where he said that. I'm thinking, okay, now you're worried about it after Florida State, last year's incident, and then Clemson getting involved. Now you're worried about the health of our sport. Now all of a sudden, because the SEC and Big Ten are like, okay, we're going to make this where we get where we want, and y'all still get where you want, but we still reign supreme. Now you want to say the health of the sport. It doesn't make any sense to me.
If Florida State and Clemson leave the ACC, I just ask one thing: just go to the SEC, and while you're at it, if Miami and Georgia Tech are going to leave the ACC, go to the SEC. Leave the ACC, go to the SEC, because I want to see the three Florida schools play each other annually. I want to see Georgia Tech play Alabama on an annual basis. I want to see Clemson play Georgia on an annual basis like they used to. I mean, just for that sake. But if it's like they're going to the Big Ten, which I feel like the Big Ten's trying to get a presence in the South, because, I mean, they already got the East Coast. They already got a presence in the West Coast. They're always going to have a presence in the Midwest. They just have to get that Southern school. They're looking for that Southern. They don't really care who it is. They're going to get that Southern school.
And what I will say too is, I don't think the ACC is going to die anytime soon. And here's why: because there's too many basketball schools that have too much invested. You've got your Dukes, obviously. You've got us down here at Louisville. You've got North Carolina. You've got the Syracuses that care too much about their basketball for them just to. They will make sure that it will not die if they can help it.
Well, and I remember, unfortunately, like the Big East in 2011, they had the most teams in the history of March Madness to get to March Madness. Like, they even had like conference rematches in the round of 32. But unfortunately, that wasn't enough to save the Big East. So it
I'm hearing rumors, or I'm not hearing rumors. I'm seeing rumors. I guess I should put it more accurately on Twitter, and just people. I don't know if it's just people talking or whatnot, but I'm seeing like this Big East ACC merger.
Oh, I saw Wild U talking about it on Twitter today, and I said something that Syracuse, I think, would benefit from it, because they would be able to play St. John's annually again. They'd be able to play UConn annually again. And they would be able to, and Georgetown, I mean, Georgetown's staying for good, let's be real. But the football program would be screwed. Like, I wonder how it would affect the football programs, like the remaining one in that one. Because, I mean, it's like, Syracuse, I feel like, is going to get screwed over in some way, shape, or form.
Here's the thing, Daryl, and normally I'm not a guy for all this moving and stuff, but if the ACC and Big East do come together, I would love nothing more than that. I'm 100% on board if that's what they want to do, because there's so many traditions and rivalries that can reunite. We've got Xavier, you got UConn, you got St. John's, Marquette. There's so many rivalries, so many things we can reignite within the basketball realm. But like Jackson said, we've also got to apply this to football. How does it affect everybody in football? Well, I mean, it'd be interesting.
Does it really affect? Do they even have football teams, the Big East? Like, I know UConn would.
FCS, but that's it.
Yeah, they could just stay in their own thing, and UConn, I guess, would. You know what? UConn kind of joining by itself would make some sense, because it'd be 18. And it would have a partner for Syracuse to play. And I mean, if you're so desperate to go to SMU and Cal and Stanford, I mean, UConn has been horrible over the last few years, it feels like, in football, but something's better than nothing, I guess.
Okay, so far, Villanova seems to be the only Big East school that even has a football program that's active.
Yikes.
I mean, I can't think of the last time I saw DePaul football. It's like, I don't even think that was. I think the last time they played was before our great grandparents were born.
Ugh, yikes! Oh well,
There we go. We
that's
just
an
solved the
unfortunate.
problems of the ACC just like that. Just merge with the Big East.
Yeah, just
put
get.
Utah in there. Have Villanova still playing the FCS as an ACC member because why not? And then
And put Temple in there. Put Dayton in there. Put
no, we don't need to
St.
water it down with the other. We want to get. You don't want to water it down too much, Jackson. We don't need.
Hey, I like those Big Five rivalries. I mean, it's like they're fun.
Like
I understand that,
like
Jackson.
Jackson.
They can be good non-conference games though to beef up the non-conference schedule. I mean, we don't need a bunch of 0-10 caliber ACC teams going
DePaul had
5-5.
nothing. Let's kick out DePaul. They had nothing. Oh,
Jackson's trying to make the conference relevant.
while we're
He's
at
trying
it,
to spread the love.
and I'm never gonna quit calling for this, but ACC trade Pittsburgh for Rutgers.
Jackson, would you give up on that dream? I get it. You want
never. I will never give up on that dream.
And this is something. I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Daryl. Go ahead. I'm just sighing at Jackson over here.
Subjects completely.
Go for it. Go for it.
I was going to ask you, Austin, since it's almost March, and when you fill up that bracket and you see 14 or 15, or maybe if South Carolina somehow pulls a miracle run and wins the SEC, 16 SEC teams on the bracket, what are your thoughts going to be?
I'm going to be like, my first initial thought will be, there's a lot of great teams in the SEC, and the SEC is now finally caught up. And my second thought will be the SEC is finally catching up with the ACC because, and I'll say this to real, and you know this as well, and Jackson, I've mentioned this before. I've always been a backer of the ACC. I believe is the best basketball conference. Them and the Big 12 are the two big dogs. And for the longest time, the SEC was the puppy on the porch. Like every now and then you'd have a few good Cinderella stories. But now the SEC's elevated to their level where they've almost surpassed the ACC. Now, the Big 12, they're kind of the lead dog for best conference. But the SEC, if I see 16 on there, I'm just going to be like, you know what? Maybe enough time has passed. They are the second best conference.
I don't think 16. I think with Georgia beating Florida tonight, which is crazy, by the way, a bubble team basically beat the number 3 team in the country. You could have 14 SEC teams in right now. Like 14 SEC teams would probably be picked. And then all you would need is like LSU to win 2 or 3 conference games, and they're probably in. And then you need it's not inconceivable that 15 of them get in. Like that's insane. It's insane.
Hey, you know what it opens up for also, Darrell?
What?
Alabama get back to number 2 because, like, if Florida State was to upset Duke, if Houston, let's see, if they were to get upset on Saturday by Cincy, and then Alabama beats Tennessee, in comes Alabama back at that number 2 spot just in time for next Saturday's edition of the Iron Bowl matchup in Auburn, Alabama on Saturday.
That you're going to need a lot to go your way for that to happen. Probably the biggest of them is Florida State beating Duke. I'm not sure if you watched Duke basketball recently, but they're just going through every ACC team like a hot knife through butter, man. I mean, they're just carving them up.
Duke, listen, I don't want to call it early, but Duke might be the best team in college basketball, and I mean that in all seriousness.
Don't say that. I'm pretty sure that's blasphemy. I'm pretty sure that's actual blasphemy in some states, Austin. We're not allowed. Oh, I just recoiled in pain.
Listen, Daryl. I can only make 3 arguments: Houston, Auburn, Duke, and maybe Alabama for the best team conversation. After that, I won't hear any other arguments. Those right now are the 4.
Because they've got 14 quad 1 wins. 14 quad 1 wins. You know how many? Oregon has 9 as the next best team. 14 quad 1 wins. I don't know if there's a team that's even matched that ever in the history of the sport. It's first off, it's really hard to play 14 quad 1 teams in a single season. And I mean, just look at the way Auburn's been playing. They dominate basically everybody they play from start to finish. Like, they don't have a game where it's like they're resting on their laurels or they're playing with their food or, oh my goodness, they're behind by 5 at the half. Are they going to lose this game? No, it's just from start to finish. Oh, Auburn's clearly the better team in this game, and they're just going to beat you down the entire game like they're the better team.
Arkansas, the last game they played Arkansas, that was a fun competitive game. But then Arkansas blew it, of course.
Yeah, that's the standard for Auburn is so high. They could have a game where I don't think they trailed the entire second any part of that game at the end. They were only up by 4 or 6. And it's like, man, Auburn only beat this good team by 4 or 6 points. Man, what a scrub! What a scrub team! They only won by 6 points. I guess I should be telling Austin, man, Louisville, I guess they're just scrubs now. They only beat Virginia Tech by 5 points tonight. Complete scrubs, man. Complete scrubs.
Hey. Listen. I'm a nice guy, for real. I like my people. I treat them good. But listen, it's year 1 under Pat Kelsey. We're not going to get too hasty. I expect these things. Now, if this is year 4 or 5, and we're playing these pedestrian teams and not blowing them out of the water, I'm going to have some serious problems. And plus, the real, we got a double bye in the ACC tournament with the win tonight. So I'm going to take it as a win-win. Even though it was a ugly, gutsy, gritty win, I'm going to take it.
You should. My point is, if you win by 6 one game or 16 most games, winning is fine. As long as you win in college basketball, that's ultimately the most important thing that matters when you're playing capable teams. Now, if you're playing like Miami or Boston College, then you got to beat them by 25 points because, those teams are
Iowa State, Daryl. Look at what they did tonight. They lost to a bad Oklahoma State team.
Oh, that was a shocking result. Normally I'm not surprised by any of these results that happen, but Kansas just getting dog walked by BYU, almost losing to Colorado. That's another game. Kansas should have beat Colorado by 20 points if they were actually any good. But instead it was tied or they're only up 2 with 4 minutes to go. I'm sorry. Kansas is not a good team this year.
Oh, Kansas is trash. They're just stinking.
Indiana.
They are a stinking, steaming pile of trash, filth, and the definition of God.
And listen, Daryl, and you'll get with me behind this, but the only reason why North Carolina is even in this conversation for being alive in the tournament within the SEC is because they're North Carolina. I'm sorry, Jeffrey. We love you. We wish you were here to defend them, but since you're not, you're not.
I think,
but North Carolina,
the same thing as us for sure.
Because let's be honest, Daryl, North Carolina is a brand. If they were not North Carolina, we would not be putting them in the tournament, or Lenardi wouldn't have them in the tournament.
So you smack Iowa State off the face of the earth on a Monday night, but you let yourself get beat by BYU, while the week before that you lose to Ute. You basically get the Matt Dillon backhand slap by the BYU Cougars. That's what happens.
Yeah.
That's embarrassing. But what's worse than that is you lost to a pitiful K-State team.
That's Big 12 basketball for you, Jackson. And Kansas State, they were still on the bubble, and then they blew it. So, and unless there's a miracle in order, they're more than likely.
And maybe the band's all over the field. Maybe the band is all over.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, man.
Jackson, don't you start that again. Don't you
Oh,
start
man.
that.
Oh man, that I'm gonna tell you a little backstory, Darrell. Like, cause like this was like week 12 of the 2022 season. Will Jeffrey Austin and I just met like few weeks prior at that time. So we're trying to figure out the last game, the pick for week 12. I'm sitting here going Cal Stanford because it's like the 40th anniversary of the play of the band is all over the field. Austin's called for Virginia Tech Liberty, and we got to put it up to Jeffrey. We all just like stayed up till 4 a.m. that night discussing that. It's like it was just so funny. It's like it's funny looking back at it.
That's what makes college football great, right there.
There you go. It's like
Literally, Darrell, we had a discussion over Cal, Stanford, or Virginia Tech Liberty. You know how bad the slate has to be that we're arguing over that.
Oh, it must be pretty bad for. Yeah, that's I can't even imagine. Then that goes back to my previous point about the Big Ten. But
well, I learned I'm a hell of a lobbyist that night.
I was looking, Jackson, at the bracketologies, and I got some slight bad news for you, Jackson. It looks like Alabama, the 1 seed hopes, maybe have to be put on life support here in a few days.
No problem.
It's looking like you'll be a top 2 or the number 5 overall seed. I think Houston, it seems like it's going to pass you all because they've already won the Big 12 or clinched a big share, a share of the Big 12 title. They're 3 games up, I believe, over everybody else. They haven't lost a single Big 12 game in regulation this entire season. So they just keep on winning, and I think Alabama's going to lose to Auburn again, and just because of that, and Houston just winning, if they went out to win the Big 12, they're going to jump Alabama. I also think it's because people just hate the SEC and don't want to see one conference have 3 number 1 seeds. Like the only time it's happened is the ACC that one year where they were just like ridiculously stacked.
I think it was. Not to cut you off, Darrell, but I think it was the year Virginia won, wasn't it?
Oh, maybe. I think it was
2019. Huh.
Yeah. That might have been.
Could be the 2015-16 season, I guess.
Yeah, because Virginia was a 1 that year. I believe Duke was a 1 in 19. Because that was Zion, Barrett, and Reddish year. There's 2.
North Carolina was the other.
Yeah. So that would have been the only other year.
Yeah, think about 2011. Don't forget about 2011. Because Pitt was a 1 seed. They lost to Butler in the round of 32. And of course, that was the first year where we saw March Madness on CBS, TNT, TBS, and True TV.
Yeah, the bracket for that year, the 1 seed, the number 1 overall seed, tells you how far long ago it was the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Yep.
And then it was Kansas, Pittsburgh, Duke.
Oh, well, I was off.
Okay, your championship game, UConn Butler.
Yep. Well, yeah, I believe Butler was an 8 seed that year.
They were. They beat Pittsburgh in the second round. Wisconsin 3rd, Florida in the 4th, and VCU. Shout out to Will and D, our friend over there. His alma mater made the Final Four, which is nice. Austin, I'm sure you'll appreciate this. That was a year Kentucky made the Final Four. I know Louisville, I don't think's made the Final Four in 40 years now?
Oh, God.
45 years?
Listen, Darrell. Listen, I like you, Darrell, but you better put some respect when you talk about your big brother over here, little brother. You better.
Big brother?
Yeah, we're the big brother. We're the big brother in this room.
You beat us in recently. When was the last time y'all beat us in Ace sport? Baseball team's better. Hey. Softball team's better. Gymnastics.
That's the
football, basketball.
Louisville's got the bragging right. Louisville has the bragging rights in football.
Oh yes, they beat us 1 out of 6. Woo! They beat us 1 out of 6. Guys.
Listen, Daryl.
Woo!
Listen, Daryl. It's okay to be down on that lower level. I understand it's hard for you to not understand that, but Louisville, we're up here. It's okay to be under us. It's okay.
And
You
only
can't be a
football.
winner.
Only-
Daryl, you can't be a winner at everything, buddy. You can't be a winner at everything. You got the Chiefs. That's all you need.
Yeah, I'm just a winner in most things compared to Louisville. Just most. I got 99.9999% of the gold, and you got 0.0001%. Like, look at my gold.
Well, one thing to remember in March Madness for everybody, doesn't matter if you're a 1 seed, doesn't matter what seed you are in March Madness. It matters on what you deal with the hand that you were dealt with.
And I think it'll be good seeing. I know Louisville's getting a lot of Kentucky and Arkansas type brackets. So Austin, how would you feel like playing a Kentucky or an Arkansas type team in the round of 32 or Sweet 16?
Listen, I have scar tissue for playing Kentucky in the Sweet 16. I'll never forget it. I'm gonna take y'all on a story here, story time. It was the year after we won the title. I'll never forget it. I was in the kitchen for the 2014 Sweet 16, and I was thinking, Louisville, we're gonna repeat. We brought almost everyone back that year. I'm like, in Kentucky, they were lucky to be there, and I thought, finally, we're gonna put them in their place. And the Harrison twins, by golly, them dang Harrison twins, I still ain't forgot that night. I forget which Harrison, whether it was Andrew or Aaron, hit two of the biggest shots that game, and I just remember falling to the floor. So if we play Kentucky in a Sweet 16, I'm going to have a lot of flashbacks, and I'm not going to take it for granted.
Yeah, it was fun from my perspective watching that. We were an 8 seed, I believe, and that was the year Wichita State was undefeated. And I believe it was Aaron Harrison. He made the exact same shot all the way to the championship game. It was like, oh man, Kentucky's tied. We're down 1 or down 2. Oh, Aaron Harrison's pulling from the wing. He's shooting a 3 and it's in. And he's like, did that every game in a row to make the championship game. It was so great to see. It's like, oh, wow. He was like 2 for 2. Oh, he's 3 for 3 making the shot. Oh, he's 4 for 4. Oh my gosh, we beat was it Wisconsin that year to make the Final Four? I think it was Wisconsin.
Michigan.
Oh, it was Michigan.
Y'all beat, I believe, was Kansas State, Wichita, Louisville, Michigan, Wisconsin.
Yeah, I believe that was. And then we lost to UConn
that was
in the championship game.
Yeah, that was the Shabazz Napier year when UConn went on their run.
Yeah, I know. As a 9 seed. What about that? I don't think that'll ever happen again, or at least for a while. An 8-9 matchup, because you have to at least face, barring a miracle, a 1 to at least get to the Final Four.
Yeah, that was. I forget who did. Yeah, UConn ended up. Who did they end up playing since they were the 7? They would have played the 2.
They played Michigan State in the Elite 8. They play Florida in the Final Four.
Yeah, that Florida team was good too. Yeah,
Florida was a good basketball program with Billy Donovan before he went off to the NBA. They were really, really something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but to your point though, Daryl, of having a 7 and 8 play, I don't think that's a rarity. If that happens again, like you said, it'll be barring a miracle, or that 1 seed is that fraudulent. And I don't see it happening this year. I mean, I know the bracket hadn't come out, but assuming if the 1 seeds hold the way they should, I don't see anybody stopping Auburn until maybe the Elite 8.
Right. Well, to me, this year,
Auburn lost in the round of 64 last year.
That was a different team, though, Jackson.
Yeah, to me, this year, there's like a clear 4 or 5 teams that are just flatly better than everyone else. This isn't a year where there's like a lot of parity at the top. I mean, we've seen some years where the 1 seed changes basically who the number 1 team in the country is basically every week. This year, it's been like Auburn, and it just stayed that way. Even when they lost, it was still Auburn. And if it wasn't them, it would have been Duke. The reason hasn't even been a lot of chaos behind them. So I do think this is going to be a year where we get a chalkish bracket in general. I don't think we're going to see a lot of 1s or 2s going down until the week 16 or Elite 8. And that's just my personal opinion. There's a few type things I think could happen, like if Gonzaga or UConn gets put in the 7th seed, I could see them beating like a Texas A&M type team because I don't think Texas A&M is a great team. For example, I think if Kansas were a 7 seed, that could be another one of those dangerous 7s. But if Louisville was a 7 and if Louisville played Purdue, for example, in a 7-2 matchup, I'd probably pick Louisville because Louisville's got an interior player where meanwhile Purdue doesn't have a center at all. They just don't have a center. So fascinating watching. They just declined to have one this year.
Try not to laugh at this comment. Try not to laugh at this comment.
He's talking about them making the Final Four, and that was just based off of one player taking over the game and DJ Burns. They're like, oh, we'll just give him the ball, back it down, do a post up, and then we'll just see how far this takes us. And it took them all the way to the Final Four.
Listen, I'll say this, and Jackson, you're going to like this, but Alabama going to the Final Four last year, that was a bit of a shock to a lot of people. Not a lot of people wanted me. Here's the thing too, Jackson. I remember instilling the confidence in you. I said, Alabama's going to be a Final Four team. It's going to happen. They've got too much good talent for it not to happen. And you were like, I don't think so. I don't trust them. And I'm like, this is the year. And what happened? They did. And you should be thanking Grant Nelson because I even said to Real, I said Grant Nelson's going to have a breakout game when it matters most for Alabama in the tournament. And what happened? Against North Carolina, he had the biggest game of his life.
Oh, yeah, and that was something else I was wanting to bring up. I saw Hubert Davis got an extension. I thought North Carolina was closer to firing Hubert than they were keeping him. To me, it makes no sense why to extend him to 2029, 2030. Does it make sense to you, gentlemen?
Contract extensions mean nothing in this era. Like just because it may say that, but the reason why it was so funny about North Carolina State is because they're terrible all over again. It's hum again, jiggity jig.
Do you think it's just like a vote of confidence?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's like, yeah, but North Carolina State, I'm kind of wondering. I feel like Kevin Keats. The only reason why he's not even fired is because that Final Four trip last year. It's like,
oh, that's the thing too. Not a lot of people realize this, but Kevin Keats, he was basically on the chopping block last year. If he didn't win, they even said on the broadcast, because I was watching the Louisville NC State game, and they even were questioning if he doesn't win at least 1 or 2 of these ACC tournament games, what is his future going to be like? Because they were questioning if he lost to us, and we were pitiful, mind you. People were questioning if they can't even beat us, pitiful Louisville, will he even make it out of the gym before they fire him? Like, that's how bad it was getting.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of crazy what one run can do for you. In my opinion, I think there's an overreaction to one run, kind of similar in college football. You know, Mike Norvell. Oh my gosh, he went 13-0, and now we got to sign him for like 10 years. Oh my goodness, Jimbo Fisher won a national championship. He's going to be our coach to 2037. You know, just silliness. And it doesn't work out generally.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, when you have Jimbo Fisher as head coach, you got players getting high 30 minutes before kickoff against South Carolina and Norvell. I mean, Florida State is just like they're just spending like they are taking out mortgages at this point to see if they could pay off Mike Norvell's buyout if they have another bad season.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Norvell to me, even though it was just one bad season, like it's a lot harder to have that type of a season at Florida State, in my opinion, than it's go 13-0 and undefeated. Like if he was at Cal, or Stanford, or these programs that really, honestly, I don't believe care about football, I can understand it. But it feels like you're too big to fail. I don't know, Austin. What are your thoughts? Like if that year Louisville decided to just completely give up, even Louisville. Remember? I think it was 2018 where they allowed like 2,000 points to everybody.
2019, the year after we lost Lamar, because it was the year we played Alabama and we got our AWS's kicked on national television.
Well,
Bobby Petrino's last year. Yes, that was the year y'all put almost 60 up on us, and that was when our stadium was half, like, literally empty. Like,
but it feels like Louisville should be too big for allow that type of thing to happen.
Yes, like I felt disgusted watching those games. Like literally, Daryl, as a Louisville fan, I watched every game. I watched every single game, and I just was disgusted. I was appalled. And I even thought to myself, there's too much good talent on this team for us to go 2-10. We should at least be going 8-4, 9-3. We've got too much good here not to be. But no, Bobby Petrino, after Lamar, we kind of had to hit the reset button.
Yeah, I know. And I'm worried for Florida State's future. Well, I shouldn't say worried because the Florida State fans are acting like jerks that offseason. I was rooting for them to lose every single game, and I'm happy they did. So,
have you seen like some of the YouTube videos of some of the Florida State channels? Like, I mean, I don't mind watching them. Don't get me wrong, like the channels, but it's just like all it talks about is the Florida State ACC lawsuit, and it's like they're the crazy they're like the crazy ants that's always bragging that they're gonna leave you, and they say it every 5 to 10 minutes every time they get mad, and it's like, my God, shut up! Either leave the ACC or don't.
Well, they chose an option and they chose don't. Actually, they chose, hey, we not only aren't leaving the ACC, but why are you telling us we're leaving the ACC? We never said I'm leaving the ACC. Where's that at?
Yeah. The real Fitz Jackson's description perfectly. They're like that woman that at first they're like, you're not good enough for me. I'm leaving you. You didn't back me up. But, I love you, honey. Oh, I never said that about you. That's Florida State in a nutshell. They're like that giddy high school girl gossiping.
Oh, yeah. Me and my friends were talking. We said, we should leave you. It's like, either leave or don't, and go cry about Kirk Herbstreit elsewhere. Don't get me wrong, I'm not the biggest fan of Kirk, but they are way too obsessed with it. It's like, that dog. It's like, shut up. We get it. You hate him. Okay?
You despise him.
I think, Jackson, what you need to do is, if you want to listen to some rational and cogent takes, you should listen to the Paul Feinbaum show. I think you should. I thought that would have got a bigger laugh, but I guess not all jokes can land. But
it's all right. I mean, they're just like, oh man. I think they're like, because it's like I apparently missed the parts where there's like the weird people calling on there, because like they're just like, okay, we're not gonna get a hold of those for right now. We're gonna get a hold of this caller.
Yeah, they've got an interesting cast on there, but let me ask you this about March Madness, since we are in basketball season. Like
Okay.
with this, I'll ask you this, I guess, about college football. The spring games are going away, it feels like, which is just another thing being taken away for us because, we're fans, and clearly, why do the fans matter about the sport? Obviously, we don't. That's what they're telling us. The off season now is from like February to early August because the transfer portal is earlier on, early signing day, so we don't even have that January, late February signing day anymore. We got 6 months of just dead period. So how do you expect people to stay engaged, even us hardcore people, to stay engaged about what's going on in the world of college football?
Well, what I usually do is just wait for the Lindy's magazine to come out and then wait a few more weeks to go and get the Phil Steele magazine. But that's what that keeps me going for the off season.
And the thing I'll say too is about it, Daryl, is one thing, and I'm sure we all can relate to this because we're all fans, but I love when schedules come out. So when the NFL does their schedule release in May, I get excited. Especially being a Cowboys fan, I'm like, okay, where are we going to play the Eagles? Where are we going to play this team? Where are we going to play that team? And to realize, I know you poke fun at saying this real season don't start until the AFC Championship, but I know at some level you get excited to see who the Chiefs are going to play and who this, that, and the other. And I feel like in college football, like after the season's over, the schedule release for a lot of people are like, obviously, as you see, we're doing this and we're doing the Big 12 and ACC. A lot of people get into that in the dead period, but after that, it's kind of like the spring game is another way for people to get engaged besides the schedule. But now they want to take it away from us, and it's kind of like, okay. And it's going to make it harder on content creators and people who cover the sport because now what do you talk about? Because you don't have nothing to see. You can only go off what you've seen last. And for someone like a Louisville, a Kentucky, and Auburn's, those type teams, whatever you saw last could either be a really bad taste or it could be a good taste. And if you're not someone with a brand reputation, it could be what determines their outlook on you going into next year without having seen the spring games of, oh, Auburn looks like they've improved, or oh, Mark Stoops looks like he's got a good squad, or Jeff Brom looks like he's got another core. Like the spring game is how we gauge what you're going to look like next year. We kind of predict ahead, like, oh, Kentucky might go 11-1 and make a playoff run. To humor you there, Daryl.
Yeah, I know. I was going to say 1-11 is more likely with the way our roster's being created this year. We got a throwaway SEC player at quarterback.
Well, you mentioned a little while ago about the spring games looking like they could be going away, and you talked about fans possibly losing interest here and there. I believe I watched it a little bit on the call-in for the State of the Address for the Voice of College Football. You mentioned Uncle Lou's video where he gives his take on it. I haven't been able to watch the video yet, but I'll make sure to tune into it.
Yeah, that was alarming to me because there's certain things that come up on your radar that's like, oh, this is different than your normal discussion point that you hear. And when he was like, man, you could tell he was just aggravated with the direction the sport's going on. I'm just thinking, man, if one of the most diehard of diehard college football fans, a YouTube college football content creator, can't defend the sport, hates the tradition going away, hates the spring game going away, hates how the SEC, he believes, is going to get rid of the Louisville, Kentucky game, the Georgia Tech game, Florida State game, and the I forget the last one, but the 4 ACC, SEC games at the end of the year to add the 9th SEC schedule. It just feels like a lot's being taken away, and I'm thinking if somebody that loves the sport that much is upset about it, then what would your average college football fan think? Because as much as people, don't care about these teams in general, there are a lot of Oregon State, Cal, Stanford, Oklahoma State, Big 12 fans, the smaller ACC schools, and while individually they don't make up a lot of people, If you added them all together, that's a large portion of the fan base. Now I will take all of them plus the casual Ohio State, Michigan fans. And, I'm just kind of worried with the direction of the sport. That's just something that popped up on my radar.
Mm-hmm. And the thing too is, Jareel, and Jackson's the biggest component of this. Me, I'm kind of in the middle, but Jackson is the biggest component. If you're a rival, he wants it to stick. USC Notre Dame, Jareel, they're a perfect example of this. That's being rumored to go away. And then, of course, you've got these big USC Hollywood, sportscasters like Colin Cowherd, who like to make these bold statements that USC doesn't need them, yada, 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 all that good stuff. But there's a lot of alumni that are like, no, USC Notre Dame is what this tradition was built off of. And listen, and some people may look at the Louisville Kentucky rivalry and be like, that's a basketball rivalry. We don't need it in football. The heck we don't. Like, listen, it's not just because that's the only sport Louisville can win at. I know where you're going with that, Darrell. But Louisville, Kentucky has produced some really good games. I mean, you ought to remember this 2016, Darrell. That was a classic of a game. The first year y'all beat us, the year Lamar won the Heisman, that was a classic. And then a couple years later, we had another really good game. We've had a couple really good games in this sport, and the Governor's Cup has always meant something to both of us as fans, and I would hate for it to go away.
I agree. It's because it matters. Not every game has to be relevant in terms of the playoff picture on the national landscape to matter. I think what makes college football great is, two Michigan State fans, Michigan State, Minnesota, means a lot to them. Matters a lot to them. And unfortunately, people are telling them that it doesn't matter going forward. And I think the origin of the playoff and the tagline ESPN came up with, which is who's in, has really hurt the direction of the sport going forward. And I'm just looking forward to the way we get to a place and we just stay there. That way we have an identity. Because I'm curious, I haven't seen David or Sean Garner call into these type of shows, but I would really like their opinion, or Sean specifically, because he's pro expansion. And I'm like, and because he wants to give teams more opportunities. And I understand that on an intuition level. But if you're allowing 5, 4, or 6 loss teams to make the college football playoff, that doesn't feel like you're giving somebody an opportunity. You're just kind of giving everyone a pass.
It's kind of feeling like, to me, like corporate America has really just taken over college football, where it's like, the fans' voices aren't being heard, like especially on like the rivalries that have been taken away. It's just like that, and
I think
the prices have been getting high. It's like that's been bugging plenty of people.
Yeah, I think they were, in my opinion, they were testing the rivalries going away with Oregon State, Oregon, and Washington State, Washington. I mean, I feel bad for those fan bases. They've basically lost everything.
Yeah.
And the last couple points I'll make is, the thing is, Jareel, and I'll say this, is you look at a rivalry like you said, Iowa, Nebraska. Most years that's going to have no impact on the playoffs. But to that fan base, that rivalry is their entire season. That means everything. And most years, Darrell, Louisville, Kentucky won't have anything to do with the playoffs. But to me and you, that's our season. That's what we look forward to at the end of the year. That's what us as fans, we look forward to. And Jackson, most of the time, Auburn, Alabama, I know the past history has suggested it has a playoff implication impact, but here recently it hasn't. But Alabama Auburn fans want nothing more than to beat one another, whether the playoffs are on the line or not. It's just something about the tradition, the pageantry of these rivalries. I don't want them to go away either, because it means something still to all of us.
And
it means something.
And You're all right, Darrell. They're kind of testing that with Oregon State, Washington State to see if people are really gonna care, so to speak. But they're gonna try something like that with like a Florida State or like a Clemson, South Carolina. See if they can find a little loophole in those state laws to get rid of one or two of those games. And that's where you're really gonna see fans just lose it. They are just gonna lose it. And it's gonna take more teams and more rivalries getting screwed over. And I feel like that is probably going to have to happen for some people to just wake up.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah,
and
it's
that's
sad.
where oh, go ahead, Drew. Go ahead.
I was going to say it's sad that it's going to have to get to that point, but I'm afraid if we were good to go that far, we're not going to be able to turn it around. That's why I was so anti-expansion of the playoffs, because I'm like, we're going to hit this iceberg, and when the ship starts stinking, we can't repair the ship, and that's where we're at.
We're going to be the Titanic, basically.
We kind of. I mean, think about it. It's like we went from no playoffs to BCS to 4 to now 12 to now 14 / maybe 16. I mean, would it really surprise? I mean, maybe it's me being cynical, but I mean, 32 is not out of the picture for me. I mean, why not just? I mean, they just keep expanding it for the sake of expanding it, and it's just so disappointing to me where it's gone. But Austin, I know you were going to make a point. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was just going to say to Jackson real fast. Jackson, how would you like it if somebody told you we're going to take away Auburn or Tennessee from Alabama? As a fan, you would be outraged because those are the two biggest games you look forward to.
Oh, I'd love it.
But the casual fans will be like, oh, what do we care? It's not really on my watch list. It's not Alabama, Georgia. But to you, though, Jackson, those games mean everything.
Oh, I'll be having a 50-hour lobbying session if I have to.
Mm-hmm. And like Drew said, that's where we're going.
Though, I was talking with my guy Mayhem Matthew, who has a channel, who has rebranded his channel called College Football Unleashed. He and I were talking Saturday night. We were up late talking about, where he's like, should I do like a video about like, what college football has become and stuff like that? How the Big Ten and the SEC are kind of like WWE. It's like, oh, we're doing our own thing. If you don't like it, it's like I'm like, go for it, man. Go for it. I mean, I think people want to hear that. It's like, go for it. Go with your instincts. And honestly, it's like you said, the iceberg is near. It's like it's bad, but it's like a lot of teams are just going to get screwed over for things to really change. And I hope we see like dramatic changes in our lifetimes to the point where it's like we drop down to an 18 playoff or go back to the 14 playoff or just like go two best teams or a +1 system.
Right. Well, what I was hoping, one of the reasons I was hoping this playoff system would be I thought it was going to be blowouts. I was like 80% confident. I was pretty sure these games were going to be blowouts. It's like maybe that'll incentivize people that, hey, these SMUs, Clemson's, Boise States can't compete. They just can't compete. And yet people are still like, well, we can't be like, I don't think it goes to their head that just because you're included in the bracket doesn't mean you can win it all. Like a 16th seed in March Madness is included in March Madness.
Mm-hmm.
They can't win it all, though. And that's where the Big 12 people, and not as much as the ACC people, because they've got powerhouse programs like Clemson, Florida State, Miami, for example, but the Big 12 just can't compete. Ever. Like, do you all listen to Greg Flugar?
I was listening to
A
him the
little
other
bit.
day.
Like, he talks about sometimes, like, how he says, "Well, never say never that anybody can't compete," and maybe the Big 12. And it's like, dude, the Big 12. Sure, theoretically, in the future, maybe something amazing happens where TCU becomes the center of the universe, but they're not going to win it. No one in that conference is ever going to win a national championship, barring miracles. Like, all those people are talking about Texas Tech and how their portal class is top 5,
Yeah.
I believe.
Yeah.
And they're
Texas Tech, in my opinion, is living off of the Mike Leach days. Like I think
Listen.
once we get to a point where there's like younger generations that don't even know who Mike Leach was, that's where Texas Tech is really screwed.
In Jackson, now that Patrick Mahomes has elevated himself into this GOAT conversation, they're living off the Patrick Mahomes era too. He was at the Texas Tech game last night, and literally the first thing ESPN does is pan right over to him.
Oh yeah,
right. But my point was, despite Texas Tech having all these resources and still allegedly making a big move in the portal, I looked at their overall ranking. I was expecting, man, they're going to be like in the top 10. They were 24th last I checked in the rankings, which is about where Mississippi State is. It's about where Kentucky is.
God.
I'm not joking. Mississippi State, I think, is 27th. If you want to fact check me, Jackson, I know you've just got everything on lock.
Right.
But it's like, I'm sorry, the 24th most talented team in the country ain't going to win it all. Hasn't won it all. Well, almost certainly not win it all because there's less variance going forward because you have to face more elite competition.
And Texas Tech is just hyping themselves up for nothing. Like,
they did this last year too.
That's the funny thing though, because like Joey Foster and I were having these conversations about like Texas Tech, where he was saying, "Oh, they could win the Big 12 and all that." And I told him, no, they're not going to. They are going to screw up somewhere down the line. They look like a team that's just overhyped. And I told Austin the same thing. They're just going to get overhyped. They'll have that one big win, but they'll be losing a couple games they shouldn't. Case in point, Washington State. They lost to them for no reason.
But my point is, even if they win the Big 12, they're still not going to be competitive for a national championship.
No.
Here's the thing, Darrell, to validate your point, is TCU as good? And I'll say this, Darrell, I thought TCU in 2022 had a great football team. They got a couple guys that are playing now in the league. But when they lined up against Georgia, Darrell, it was an epic mismatch, as we all know. I thought maybe there was a slim chance. There was a slim chance that TCU could have maybe only lost by 14 to 17 points. And maybe Georgia, was a little exhausted from the Ohio State game. No. TCU got ran off the field. To make your point, TCU was their only hope, and even then, it was a very slight hope.
Right, and this is another argument I've seen because my goal is just to, like, if we want to make this sport better, I think one of the things that would help make the sport better is if the arguments that I believe, like, you just being in the tournament isn't going to win it and needs to pierce these people's bubble. And another example of an argument is, well, it's going to help recruiting. And that hasn't worked out for Cincinnati. That hasn't worked out for that 2022 TCU team. In Jackson, Arizona State almost beat Texas.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously you think they would get a massive bump in the recruiting. So I don't know where they were 2 years ago, but where do you think they finished up this year in recruiting? Arizona State.
Oh, somewhere around like the top 40.
Austin, what do you think? You're there.
Yeah, I'm here. I was getting a drink. Probably top 30, top 35, if I had to guess.
They're 54th in overall rankings.
So close.
Let me tell you who's ahead of them, and I'll tell you who's behind them.
Yeah.
The next
Poor Arizona State.
Mississippi State's ahead of them, right?
Stanford's ahead of them.
Oh my God.
That's bad.
UCLA's
Okay,
ahead of
Darrell.
them.
You don't even have
Virginia,
to read the rest.
Houston,
No, read the rest. Read the rest. Continue with the rest.
Houston's ahead of them. NC State,
Yikes.
Minnesota,
Oh,
Indiana, Rutgers, Duke,
wow.
Arkansas. Well, Arkansas is an SEC school. Mississippi
Well,
State.
Arkansas always has 1964.
I was wrong. Texas Tech's 23, Mississippi State's 30, so I guess they've changed, but still, Kentucky's 24, Texas Tech's 23. Georgia Tech's 22, by the way. So if Texas Tech can win the national championship, I guess Georgia Tech can win the national championship, is how that's going to work.
Well, Georgia Tech
You
always
know
has
who's ranked behind
1990.
them, though, at 55?
Oh,
Is Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt has equal talent as Arizona State.
God.
This is why the playoffs aren't doing what one of their key things was equalizing the playing field. It's been 5 years since this theory's really been put into test with Cincinnati. And I don't think Cincinnati's gotten any better. If anything, they've gotten worse. They've downgraded a coach. They don't have a quarterback nearly as good as Desmond Ritter. So I just don't know where these people are coming up with their opinions. But you got any thoughts about that, Jackson?
Well, I always say, like how I said a little while ago, that it doesn't matter what seed you are in March Madness. It's all about the hand you're dealt with and how you deal with it. I say same thing with recruiting rankings. You can have the number one recruiting ranking for the next 3-4 years. That doesn't automatically mean 4 straight natties.
Oh, I agree with that. But if you have the 54th recruiting class for 3 or 4 straight years, that does mean you're not winning the natty. Would you agree with that?
I can honestly agree with that.
Right. And that's where I'm going with it.
It could depend on the coach. Like, it's like, I mean, they ain't going to win a natty with that kind of class.
They may win a playoff. Maybe win a playoff game. But they would have to be like Texas, Ohio State. They would have to be Texas, Ohio State, and Notre Dame to win the national championship. They just don't have the depth to do that. But thanks for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, you're welcome, Darrell. What have you got going on your adventures this week, man? Tell the people where they can find you.
Well, you can find me on x.com or Twitter, I don't know, whatever you call that. I'll be tweeting about college basketball. I'm sure I'll be ranting this and raving this Saturday when I see Kentucky get destroyed by the Auburn Tigers, clearly the number one team in the country. So I'll probably have a bit of a meltdown for that. I'm tweet about, I don't know, some coach randomly getting fired like the Utah head coach or the Carolina extension. So you never know. I'll just be tweeting about the sports news.
Well, all righty, man. We thank you for coming on. And Darrell, you have a good night and sleep well. And stay safe, stay warm. It is cold out.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, Austin, it is us chickens, so to speak. And final thought before we go, like for me, the teams that got the hardest schedule in the Big Ten, I would say Rutgers has it hard. Because, I mean, they got Penn State, they got Ohio State, they got Oregon. It's not like 2024 where they had it a little bit easy, where they had no Michigan, no Ohio State, no Penn State. It's, oof. You got to go Washington. Luckily, you got a bye week before then. I mean, you're taking a trip to Minnesota. I mean, you're in Piscataway for the first 4 weeks. That's good. Oregon, Illinois. You end the season with Ohio State and Penn State. That is scary in of itself. And Wisconsin has a scary schedule with Alabama, Michigan, Ohio State, and Oregon. They got that Illinois game. And we're waiting and seeing what Iowa can bring. Indiana, Illinois, that's going to be scary. But, good grief. And the easiest schedule as of right now, that's a good one right there. Oof, yeah, Purdue's got rough. I don't know if I'd say USC, but I wouldn't say they got it easy, but I wouldn't exactly say they got hard. But their non-conference schedule is easy, so there's that. It looks to me Penn State has it made. Let's take a look at Penn State. Their toughest home game, Oregon. Toughest road games are Ohio State, Iowa. But after that, I mean, nobody's sitting there thinking about Michigan State or Rutgers. But Indiana's got pretty easy. No Michigan, no Ohio State, no problem. You just have to go on the road to Penn State and Oregon and Iowa. But home stretch is a little bit easy. And Michigan, let's take a look at them. The Wolverines. You gotta go Nebraska. Gotta go USC. Michigan State's your rival. Good gracious. This looks pretty easy. I can see that. I could see that about Illinois. Because I don't know what to make of Duke. I mean, they had a good year in 2024, but they were all easy teams. I mean, you should flex about beating a 2-win Florida State team. I know it was on Friday night, but still, though. Yeah, we got Illinois' schedule right now. Nope, not Illinois. My mistake. That's Michigan. Now there's Illinois. Yep, they got one. They got it a little bit easy. Penn State won't be playing Michigan again until 2026. So that's going to be good. I think you're going to be very happy with that game coming back for at least another year, Bootzilla. Maryland, they got that easy peasy non-con schedule, but that's not going to be saving them. Gophers' schedule is scary. And Wisconsin, Rutgers, they got it rough. Yeah, I can see that. Oh, yeah. Well, I just wonder for rivalry week, which one of the games will be on Black Friday. Because, I mean, I'm waiting it out for the day, like 2-3 days before Memorial Day. Like that's basically my countdown day, because I know that's when the TV schedules get announced for the first 3 weeks of the college football season for television schedules. And the Monday for week 3 is when you see TV schedule announcements for week 4. But then, like, the final announcements come later on a Sunday, the day after week 3 completes. So the schedule announcements you'll see for week 4, the TV schedule announcements, like some of them that will be finalized will be Monday, September 8th, but the finalizations will be like Sunday, September 15th, September 14th, my mistake. So those are the dates to really look out for when looking at TV schedule announcements for conference. And again, let's see. So for the month of May, Memorial Day is on the last Monday of May, like always, May 26th. So what you want to do is keep an eye on Friday, May 23rd, 2025. Friday, May 23rd, 2025 is when you'll see announcements of the TV schedule announcements for the first 3 weeks of each conference.
Mm-hmm.
So there we go.
I mean, there's a lot of interesting stuff to look forward to, Jackson. I mean, before you know it, college football will be back. But that's what we are here for, to provide you entertainment until we get back to the sport we love. And like Jackson mentioned, there's a lot of schedules yet to be reviewed. And we'll be back next week to talk about another schedule, whether it's the Big 12 or ACC. Who knows? Heck, me and Jackson may just show up and talk about them both at once. You never know about us. We're like Houdini.
There we go.
But with all that being said, though, Jackson, where can people find you at, good buddy?
Well, they can find me on YouTube at Jackson Johnson 979, where I'm 105 subs away from that magic number 500. They can find me on Alabama with the Voice of College Football, where I co-host Crimson Tide Live with Johnny Burtz, Coach Johnny Burtz, and I co-host the Crimson Tide Live call-in show with Jeffrey at Only Talk Sports Thursday nights, where we take your calls 10 p.m. Eastern Time. And of course, we have a new show that premiered on Alabama with the Voice of College Football called Alabama Primetime Live with Brady Cotto and Manny Wilson as the new host. They will be joining Johnny, Jeffrey, and myself, adding to the contributions of Alabama with the Voice of College Football. And we will all be bringing you the magic for the channel. Stay tuned. You won't want to miss that. And for more updates on what I've got going on Alabama with the Voice of College Football and on the Jacksonian, and on a weekly basis, calling in on the Paul Feinbaum Show, check me out on Jackson BOCFB on @/Twitter and on Jackson Johnson 543908 on Instagram and Threads. But, for some reason, if you don't like @/Twitter or Instagram for whatever reason, check me out on Blue Sky. I post my behind the scenes stuff going on there as well. Just letting everybody know what's going on for Alabama with the Voice of College Football and the Jacksonian. Stay tuned. You won't want to miss it. Austin, what have you got going on, man?
So I got a lot of great stuff in the works. Obviously, it's Sports Talk with Austin 2002, where you can find a lot of it. And you can find me on Twitter /X, whatever you prefer to call it, as well, where I post about a lot of different things. And like Jackson mentioned, there's plenty of CFP schedules to be released, a lot of off-season stuff to be done, talked about. So me and Jackson will be covering for you, hopefully, all off-season. We'll keep you covered. We'll keep you locked here. We'll be back next week on both of our channels to talk either the ACC or Big 12 schedule, whichever one we're feeling. And who knows, we may have a hangout one night. Me and Jackson have got great stuff planned for you, planned to keep you entertained until college football comes back. May even throw some NFL in there. You never know about us. But that is what I've got going on. And I hope y'all appreciate what we're doing here, because we love you guys. We hope y'all are staying safe out there in this crazy world. And it's a wonderful thing when people come together for college football.
There we go. And y'all have an awesome night. Sleep well, stay safe, stay warm. It's cold or it's cool out. But like, comment, subscribe, click on the notification bell so you never miss another video whatsoever. And roll Tide.
Go Cards, everybody.
That's the way the news goes.